Hi guys, today I have a guest, Keri
Hello.
from Germany. She has experience to work in Japan, so I want to ask her how it was and what kind of difficulties she had. So you have worked in Japan.
Yes,
When was it?
I've worked there from 2012 to 2015, so for like 3.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah, and it was in the automobile industry. So we worked
Okay.
at an importer who imports the cars from Germany to Japan and then distributes it to the dealerships, and then we did marketing over there. So I did event marketing.
Event marketing.
Yeah.
So you had to work as also with Japanese language.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. In the company there were only Japanese people, and I think one German guy who didn't speak Japanese. So at first my boss tried to speak more English with me, but his English was not so good, so we switched to Japanese all the time.
So first of all, let's find out what kind of difficulties she had when she worked in Japan.
For you, what was the most difficult point when you were working in Japan?
Well, at first, obviously it was the language. So I learned it in university, so I was quite fluent already, but
Okay.
it was different vocabulary. Never worked besides side jobs and never worked in the automobile industry before, so I had to get a whole lot of new vocabulary into my head,
Okay.
and I had to speak from morning till evening. So in the first year I always had kind of a headache
Oh yeah.
in the evening because it was so like exhausting
Mhm.
to think everything in Japanese and write mails in Keigo and stuff. So yeah, Keigo was really hard for me. So
Yeah, sure.
compared to working in Germany or in English-speaking countries, all the work I did took like twice the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel efficient. And for German people, it's really important to feel efficient and work efficiently.
Time is money.
Yes.
Yeah.
So efficiency is very important for German people. And she also explains about one of the Japanese working style that was very inefficient for her.
This is also a problem well, not a problem, a challenge I had in Japan, because like there's the Ringi system where you had to like approve
Approval system.
everything,
Yeah.
with everybody and write lots of like approvals or something like that.
Exactly.
And then everybody had to think about it, and it felt like the decision which could be made in like maybe a day to 3 days. I felt impatient many times.
Okay.
One of the most important things that you should know before you go to Japan and work there is if Japanese people or colleagues are kind to you, even though your Japanese is not perfect. She talked also about it.
Definitely, Japanese people are always very kind
Yeah.
and helpful. So I had kind of like a marketing team, which I worked in close contact with, and supervisor. So we were kind of like a two-pair team. They asked if I wanted to join them for their like events, or in my free time they asked me out. So I had an easy time to kind of adjust. But sometimes it felt a bit like they had to invite me.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure if it was maybe a bit superficial. But I felt welcome, but I didn't want to force them to invite me. So I never really knew if they wanted to invite me or if they felt like they had to invite me because they don't know me.
So you mean that they wanted to do something that only with Japanese people, or?
Maybe. Or they felt like they were my senior, so they had to kind of take care of me.
Okay.
And ask me to join. When I studied in Japan, I always sometimes had the feeling that it was hard to kind of get close to people on a deep level, because they are always so friendly and they always promise stuff. But then in the end, it's like they just said it to be friendly and not because they really meant it. I was kind of cautious during my working life. If my colleagues were the same and they just wanted to be friendly and helpful, but I didn't want to be meiwaku to them too. I didn't want to bother them. So I never really knew if they really wanted me to take part or not. So it was a bit difficult.
All of my non-Japanese friends that have ever been to Japan or had ever things to do with Japanese people told me the same story, and I'm sorry for that. But she also taught us when Japanese people really mean it and when not. According to her, there is a sign from Japanese people.
I think a good sign is if they talk about something and say they invite you and then they really follow through. Because there were many occasions where people like talk about, let's go to this concert together, let's do this together, and in the end, or let's go to the beach together, and then they were like, oh, we already went without you. And I was like, okay, thanks. But
Yeah.
some of my colleagues actually,
Right.
they really took me to like a beach volleyball like holiday on the beach. So I was like, oh, they really meant it.
Mm.
I'm sure you're curious about advantages of working in Japan. She also said that there is a bonus only for non-Japanese worker. She called it GAIJIN-BONUS.
Like I filled a position of somebody who was there before, who kind of took sick. And I filled in for him at first, and I thought maybe I would be there for 2 weeks, then it was 2 months, and then I stayed for 3 years. So I never really knew if I'm just like a fill-in or will stay there permanently. And at first, nobody really expected me to like work really hard and do everything that the person before me did, because I was just a fill-in.
Okay.
But then they kind of slowly realized what I can do, how much they can ask of me, and how much my language skills were. So they gave me more and more work, but I always knew that they didn't expect as much as they expected from Japanese people. So they always gave me kind of the foreigner bonus. And even if I did some mistakes, I felt like they wouldn't be as strict with me because I'm German, and if I were Japanese, they would be way stricter.
That sounds very nice. Actually, I wish if I work in Japan, then I also would like to have this kind of bonus.
Yeah.
But I think on the other hand, it might be difficult to get promoted if you are expected this. So just for 2-3 years, it's fine. But at the end, yeah.
Yes, promotion is hard, and also people outside of my company, I often felt that they didn't take me seriously.
Okay.
Because I was quite young, I was 27, so
Yeah.
Sometimes I had to go instead of my boss and like pitch some new idea and discuss it with them. And sometimes I felt that they didn't take me that much serious because my boss is way higher up in the hierarchy, and I'm just a foreigner who kind of struggles a bit with the language and also, especially with Keigo. So even if lots of people like gave me the gaijin bonus and said, yeah, it doesn't matter if she doesn't speak perfect Keigo and kind of is not polite to me, she doesn't know better. But if I spoke to like business partners and tried to propose them like a new concept, or so, I felt like they were like, yeah, that's her talk. So this was a bit disappointing for me because I felt like I'm still not adequate enough. I'm still not good enough to really work and have a career in Japan.
Last but not least, I asked her about advices for people who wants to go to Japan and work there.
Well, I think it's really important to have a certain level of language skills. Nowadays, many Japanese people learn English and get better at English, but like people higher up in the hierarchy are still kind of a bit bad at English, I think. So it's definitely a plus if you can speak Japanese well and even can speak Keigo well, because Japanese people are really friendly and like to include you. So I think it's not so hard to get a start. But I think the most difficult thing is to actually get a job, because it's quite a hard system of many like interview rounds and tests, which is a bit different to Germany, I think. And even if you're not as good in Japanese, I think it's hard to pass the test. But if you pass some test or got a job, then I think the best advice is to try out as many things as you can. Talk to many different people, try to get a feel for your coworkers and how you can include yourself without always being the foreigner. And enjoy your free time, like, because Japan is such a beautiful country, so I really love to live there because I really love the culture and Tokyo as a city.
So you recommend?
Yes, I love Tokyo. Tokyo is my second home.
Okay.
It's just I didn't have to work all the time.
So we got a very interesting story from Keri, and we appreciate you take time for us. So we recommend you to go to Tokyo, Japan. Bye bye.
Bye bye.